This week, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was harassed as she tried to enter the Capitol. It was disgusting stuff that literally everyone can condemn. It's a minimum bar that, of course, the right couldn't meet. Take a look at this.
The left, this whole episode is perfectly emblematic of the left. The left is incredibly vicious when attacking anybody who disagrees with them or stands in their way in any way. But when they are confronted with any kind of even mild affront like this, they immediately retreat into victimhood, right? So I'm not saying that this guy should have been doing this. He should not have been doing this. But she immediately takes to social media and she begins whining about the fact that he was catcalling her and the Capitol Police didn't do their job and so on. It is a cult of victimhood that the left just languishes in and luxuriates in. And, you know, I gotta say, if she was offended by this particular incident, Jesse, she and the left could not survive 5 minutes of what Donald Trump or Clarence Thomas or anybody on the right goes through all day, every day for years.
Okay, people love to say that the right doesn't get comedy, but that last comment was actually pretty funny. I appreciate that from Monica Crowley. I also appreciate being told that I, as a leftist, dwell in a cult of victimhood from a person on a network that will constantly remind you that no one suffers more racial discrimination than white people. No one suffers more religious discrimination than Christians. It's really, really tough to be cis and straight, and especially if you're wealthy. Those are the people who are real victims. But here, AOC, who probably has to think at least once or twice a day if this is the day that she'll be physically assaulted or sexually assaulted by the deranged masses that love to consume Fox News. She's the one who is being a victim after the harassment that she suffered. River, what do you think about this?
I mean, I just, like you said, John, it was like, you can't write comedy like that at the end. I didn't know which way she was gonna go. For a moment, I thought she was gonna say they wouldn't last 5 minutes in Afghanistan or something, like on a, you know, like that's what I felt like she was gonna go with it, because that was when she was talking about being when AOC was talking about being a server and how difficult that was one of their favorites. Hilarious to then dwell and luxuriate in their own victimhood to prove their point. It's just hilarious to me, and also the sort of the setup of like, I'm not saying he should have been doing this. She's way worse. Her reaction to being harassed is way worse, which is just such a consistent conservative view of like, yeah, we shouldn't do that. But your response is way worse than what's actually happening to you. It's like 100%. Just classic conservative gaslighting.
Yeah, so we're not gonna show the video again, but it was a weirdo creep who decided to stalk AOC and shout sexual things at her. He calls himself a comedian, and technically anyone can do that. Anyone can call themselves a comedian, and I'm not a comedian.
They do. They certainly do.
Yeah, I couldn't detect any comedy there. It felt like the only objective was not humor. It was to make AOC feel constantly as if she is constantly at risk of being assaulted, murdered, or raped. So that is the overall goal that they're going for there. He was a tool this particular week in doing that. Crowley, of course, knows that. She's a woman in politics, in media. I have no doubt that considering the hell world we live in, she suffers harassment, sexual harassment, threats, and those sorts of things. Any woman with a high profile will. And yet, she referred to the sexual harassment as, quote, verbal mentions. People love to say that Twitter isn't the real world. I would add the corollary. The real world isn't Twitter. They're not verbal mentions. It was yelled harassment, and said she took that as an affront. By the way, he yelled out that she was my favorite big booty Latina who wants to kill babies. Because the only thing that makes sexual harassment better is the implication that the person you're harassing you consider to be some sort of immoral criminal, just to get a little bit of physical threat into the sexual threat there. The issue, of course, River, is that AOC wasn't offended by this.
Right.
It's not offense. It's stalking and the threat of violence, the constant threat of violence. She wasn't aggrieved about it. She doesn't want to be killed.
Yeah, it's funny just the levels of diminishment from Crowley, as though like to move the goalposts and pretend this is like, oh, this guy's just taking Twitter to the streets, which even if you like believe that is bad, like because Twitter has created this, anonymous space where people can say things that they wouldn't normally say in real life. And now additionally, the reverse has happened, which is then you go into real life and you have this powerful thing that you've been doing and you do it in real life and suffer no repercussions because you're a dude yelling at a woman who's a leftist and like not protected by the cops, of course, on the Capitol steps. It's like, and the fact that she's pointing it out, it's like it never stops for her, and it never stops for women particularly. It's like it happens to you, you say something, and then you're punished for saying something, as though there's some way that you could have done it better. Like if you wouldn't have walked there that day, then he wouldn't have found you, and it would, you shouldn't have worn that dress, and you should have walked this way, you should have gotten away faster or been nicer to him, or like, and then you should just keep it to yourself. It's like there's never a way that you can actually do it right. And so that's what I respect about AOC, is that she doesn't try to do that. She just tries to do what she believes is right for each situation.
Yeah. I respect that too. I worry, like she's talked previously about, like everyone assumes, oh, she wants to be in politics her whole life. And she's been very clear in interviews. She has no idea if she wants to because of how draining and grating and depressing it all is. And that, of course, is the goal. They want to drive her out of politics. This is why they harass actors and comedians and all of that. They love to talk about cancel culture briefly before they resume trying to end people's careers and make sure that they don't feel safe and comfortable, whether in social media or literally just walking around to get to their job. That's what this is about. Right. Yeah. And as River said, the threats are constant. Last year, the Department of Justice charged a Texas man who allegedly stormed the Capitol on January 6th and threatened to kill AOC on social media. Last year, Representative Paul Gosar, literally one of her colleagues, tweeted an anime clip of him murdering her. And earlier this year, a Florida man pleaded guilty to threatening to kill her and Speaker Nancy Pelosi. That's what they want, but she's the bad guy. And not just on Jesse Waters' show last night, on Outnumbered, they're still talking about it. AOC slams her own harassment, but not Kavanaugh's, implying that she is not considering those to be the same thing. And I would say, you know why she's not considering those to be the same thing? Because they're not the same thing.
They're not even in the same ballpark.
There was no threat of sexual violence against Brett Kavanaugh. He literally never even saw the protesters.
It was a candlelight vigil of his own neighbors. People who actually know him. Like, it's so very different. It's incredible to me. And like, this honestly goes back to childhood. Like literally, we talked about bullying for so long and now we don't really talk about it anymore. At least not as much as we used to. But it's such a classic, at least in my experience, like childhood bullying move for this bully to be like just constantly messing with people and pushing them and pushing them and pushing them. And then finally somebody fights back. And then the bully's like dad or mom or parent comes in and is like, you guys are treating my kid like, it's like that classic thing of like tit for tat. And like, there just isn't like that. You can't compare one person stalking another person to 50 neighbors having a candlelight vigil outside of a justice's house quietly. But they love
being near a restaurant.
That's right. They love to, that is the conservative viewpoint, is they will create the terms for everything. Like we are constantly debating on their terms as opposed to presenting our own, Yeah.
Yeah, and we're consistent. If these comments, and we'll get to this a bit more, but if these comments were against a Republican lawmaker, we wouldn't think they're acceptable. If somebody's protest against Kavanaugh was literally just walking around him and yelling about his penis, I wouldn't support that either. But consistency is a thing that we value. They don't care about it. They're not interested. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.